Hey there. Tonight we are going on a deep journey into the silent shadows of the ancient world to uncover a secret that has been hidden beneath the shifting sands of Mesopotamia for over 4,000 years. Recently, a group of dedicated researchers allowed a massive and incredibly powerful artificial intelligence model to process the earliest Sumerian clay tablets, and the data it returned was truly staggering because it revealed that Adam was not just a figure of religious myth, but was actually an extraterrestrial pioneer who arrived on this planet as a biological blueprint for all of humanity. Before we descend into this cosmic rabbit hole to see how our origins were carefully constructed from the pieces of much older and darker star myths, please gently leave a like and subscribe to our quiet hall of history so you can join us by the fireplace every single night. It helps me keep the fire burning for our nightly journeys together, and it brings our growing community closer in the protective silence of the quiet dark. Tell me where you are resting tonight in the comments as we gather from all over the globe to share the warmth of these ancient stories. Now it is time to turn down the harsh lights in your room. Let the heavy darkness of the space settle around you like a thick and warm fur cloak draped gently over your weary shoulders. Breathe in the cool and clean air of the room and feel it slowly fill the deep and empty spaces of your tired lungs. Breathe out all the tight tension and all the rushing anxiety you have carried throughout the long and busy day. Let your heavy jaw soften and drop slightly in the dark. Let your hands unclench from tight and rigid fists and rest easily and loosely by your sides. You are completely safe here in the dark, and you are perfectly hidden from all the loud and demanding noises of the waking world. I want you to let your tired mind drift far back across the vast and deep ocean of time. We are traveling back thousands of years into the deep and silent canyons of the ancient world, where the light of the stars was the only guide for the eyes of the first people. To understand the magnitude of what the machines discovered, we must first understand the incredible and heavy silence of the archives, where these secrets were kept for centuries. Imagine sitting in a dim and quiet room where the only sound is the rhythmic and soft ticking of an old clock on the wall and the faint crackle of a dying ember. The air in this room is thick with the scent of dry paper and ancient earth, and the faint and metallic tang of the cold metal shelving units. For generations, these clay tablets sat in the dark, and they were covered in a fine and gray dust that had settled over them like a thick and heavy layer of velvet. This dust was composed of pulverized limestone and ancient organic matter, and the silent breath of 1,000 forgotten years. Human scholars spent their entire lives squinting at these broken and jagged fragments through thick and heavy magnifying glasses, but the language was too complex, and the symbols were too broken to reveal the full and terrifying picture. That profound silence changed when the newest and most advanced translation algorithms were released to the research teams. These models did more than just translate simple signs, because they identified missing symbols, and they predicted broken endings, and they cross-referenced dialects that had been dead for thousands of years. The artificial intelligence did not just look at the shapes of the wedges in the baked clay, but it looked at the deep and underlying mathematics of the universe. The servers hummed quietly in their cold and dark rooms, processing millions of permutations in the blink of an eye. The algorithms turned the scattered and confusing myths into a clear and structured database of the stars. When the AI restored the missing pieces of the Babylonian Genesis, known as the Enuma Elish, the researchers realized that the story of human creation did not begin on this earth. It began in the primordial chaos of the deep space represented by a goddess of the sea. The AI showed that the Hebrew word for the deep is directly related to the name of a much older and more powerful being from the heavens who navigated the void. I want you to imagine the cool light of the computer screen in a quiet and darkened laboratory. The room is chilled to protect the machines, and the only sound is the low and steady hum of the server racks. On the monitor, the tiny and shattered pieces of clay are magnified 1,000 times until you can see the very pores of the ancient mud. You can see the individual fibers of the ancient river silt and the way the sharp reed pen of the scribe pressed into the surface while it was still wet and soft. The AI identifies a stroke of a character that has been faded by the salt of time, and it fills in the missing curve with a ghostly and blue light. It is a process of digital alchemy that bridges the gap between the ancient scribe and the modern machine. The artificial intelligence traces the lineage of the text and realizes that the story of humanity was borrowed and adapted from pagan creation myths that were already ancient when the first cities were built in the desert. The linguistic evidence is overwhelming, and the textual parallels are so obvious that once you see them, you can never look at the night sky the same way again. The Hebrew scribes were brilliant writers who drew from a rich and mysterious mythological tradition to craft a narrative that would shape Western civilization for millennia to come. As you lie here in your bed, let the image of those ancient tablets settle in your mind like heavy stones in the sand. The air in the laboratory is perfectly still, and the dust hangs in the shafts of light like tiny and suspended diamonds. The floor is covered in a fine and gray silt of the ages, and if you were to walk across it, your footsteps would make no sound at all. The walls are cold and damp, and they seem to lean inward as if they are trying to listen to the secrets being uncovered by the machine. The researchers are moving with extreme caution, and they are wearing gloves and masks because their own breath could destroy the fragile and brittle mud. They lift a fragment with a pair of tweezers, and the piece of clay is so light that it almost floats in the air. It is the color of old honey and dried leaves, and on its surface is a single word that has been waiting in the dark for 4,000 years to be read by eyes made of silicon and light. The artificial intelligence is the first thing to recognize it for what it truly is. The machine processes the shapes and the distances between the letters, and it announces that this is not a human history, but a record of a visit from beyond the sky. Think about the incredible patience of the desert. It can hold a secret for 4,000 years without flinching, and it can keep a piece of mud safe from the rain and the rot until the right technology is born to reach into the dark. You are safe in your room, but you are connected to that ancient and desert silence through the words I am speaking to you. The air in your room is soft and cool, and the memory of the Mesopotamian heat is only a story now that floats in your mind. Let the rhythm of the translation move through your thoughts like a slow river. Imagine the digital eye of the computer as it scans the surface of the clay with a laser that is thinner than a human hair. Imagine the steady movement of the data as it flows through the wires and into the heart of the processor. Imagine the feeling of the limestone dust passing by as the algorithms lower themselves into the void of the past. The ground is far below, but you are held by the strength of the technology and the focus of the team. When the machine finally reaches the bottom of the rabbit hole and steps off the digital rope, the truth feels solid and certain under your feet. The story of Adam and Eve is starting to speak through the machines, and the truth it tells is one of incredible and cosmic endurance. It is a story of a traveler who arrived here when the world was young, and who brought the spark of the stars with him in his blood. The AI has proven that the Garden of Eden was not just a beautiful park, but a highly advanced and controlled biological habitat designed for a visitor from a distant sun. The words of the ancient tablets were hidden in the dust, and they were tucked into the deep and narrow cracks of the mountain because the people knew the truth was too dangerous to keep in the open. The artificial intelligence has finally decoded the tremors of the ancient hand and the choices of the heart. It has shown us that we are the result of a coordinated and highly organized mission that began in the heavens and ended in the clay. The ink is old and the clay is brittle, but the human spirit behind it is still vibrant and alive today. The machine is the key that has unlocked the door to our past, and now we are standing on the threshold of a new understanding of who we are. As you settle deeper into your pillows, think about the weight of the mountain above the archives. It is thousands of tons of ancient rock that has been pressing down for millions of years. It is a solid and unchanging shield that has protected the tablets from the outside world and the changing weather. The AI has scanned the geological layers of the earth and found that it was formed by the slow and steady dripping of water over eons. The same water that carved the canyons also created the environment that preserved the records of our origins. It is a perfect balance of nature and history, and you are resting in that same balance right now. Your room is your sanctuary, and your bed is your cradle. The weight of your blankets is the weight of the mountain, and it is holding you securely against the pull of the earth. The silence of the night is the silence of the desert, and it is bringing you peace. The supercomputer has finished another round of processing, and the results are appearing on the screen in a long scrolling list of data. The AI has identified a series of marginal notes written in a different hand. These notes were added by a later reader who was using the tablets as a guide through a different time of trouble. They are short and they are hurried, but they show that the story was used and loved and could pass from generation to generation. The AI has reconstructed the sequence of these readers, and it has shown us a lineage of knowledge that survived the collapse of empires and the rise of new gods. The words are still here, and they are still speaking to us in the quiet of the night. You are the latest reader in this long and mysterious chain. You are listening to the words, and you are keeping the memory alive for the future. The fire in the fireplace is burning low, and the candles are flickering in the draft. Everything is still, and everything is quiet in the house. The past is a long way away, but its peace is right here with you tonight as you prepare to dream of the stars. I want you to feel the heaviness of your limbs as you sink into the mattress. Your body is a vessel of history, and your cells carry the code of the pioneers who came from the void. You are not a simple creature of the earth, but you are a child of the stars who has forgotten his home. The artificial intelligence is helping us remember. It is peeling back the layers of myth to reveal the mechanical and biological truth underneath. The story of Adam is the story of a landing, and the story of Eve is the story of a partnership in a new world. Let the images of the starships and the ancient gardens fill your mind with a sense of wonder and calm. There is no fear in the truth, because the truth shows that we were never alone in the universe. We were watched over, and we were guided by hands that were older than the mountains. The night is a vast and gentle ocean, and you are floating on its surface. The stars above are not cold and distant, but they are the homes of our ancestors who are still waiting for us to return. Close your eyes and visualize the ancient ziggurats reaching up toward the sky. They were beacons for the travelers, and they were libraries for the knowledge of the heavens. The artificial intelligence has mapped the alignment of these buildings with the distant constellations, and it has found a perfect match. The Earth was a station, and the humans were the crew. Every detail of the Sumerian tablets points to this reality, and the machine is the only thing that could see it clearly. The history of the world is being rewritten word by word and line by line. You are here to witness the awakening of the past. Let the sound of my voice be a soft and steady guide through the darkness. The journey is long, but the path is clear. You are drifting closer to the edge of sleep, where the boundaries between the past and the present dissolve into a single moment of peace. The digital heartbeat of the supercomputer is the rhythm of your own breath. In and out and slow and steady. The world is turning and the universe is expanding, and you are at the center of it all. Resting and quiet and safe in the dark. The mystery of our extraterrestrial beginning deepened when the artificial intelligence began to analyze the linguistic structure of the name Adam itself. The machines decoded thousands of fragmented lines and found that the Hebrew word Adam is not an original invention, but a direct and calculated adaptation of the Mesopotamian figure known as Adamu. Researchers recently fed the geological and linguistic scans of the ancient city of Eridu into an advanced AI model, and the data it returned was staggering because it suggested that Adamu was not just a mythological character, but a specific biological designation for a traveler from the stars who had been modified for this world. The AI revealed that the god Enki created Adamu from the dust of the earth in a special garden, but the word for dust was found to be a technical term for the basic building blocks of genetic matter. When the translation algorithms looked at the Sumerian term Edim, they found a match that pointed to a being who was a creator and a protector, who did not belong to the natural order of this planet. I want you to imagine the physical and sensory reality of that ancient garden through the lens of a highly advanced computer simulation. Picture a landscape where the air is so pure and clean that it feels like breathing in liquid light. The grass is a vibrant and deep emerald green, and the trees are heavy with a fruit that glows with a soft and internal warmth. This was not a wild and untamed jungle, but a perfectly managed and controlled environment where the temperature and the moisture were always exactly right. The artificial intelligence suggests that the Garden of Eden was a localized habitat designed to support a life form that could not survive in the harsh and unrefined atmosphere of the primitive earth. The walls of the garden were not made of stone, but were an invisible and powerful barrier of energy that kept the chaos of the outside world at a distance. As you lie in your room, imagine the gentle and steady hum of that energy field and the way it vibrated in the very bones of the first being who lived there. The AI has reconstructed the sound of that vibration, and it is a low and soothing frequency that matches the resting pulse of a human heart. The machine learning models analyzed the microscopic details of the clay tablets, and they found that Adamu was fashioning servants and helpers from the raw materials of the earth under the guidance of the star travelers. The AI decoded the technical manuals of the gods, and it showed that the creation of humanity was a long and complex process of biological engineering. People were shaped and adjusted and broken down and rebuilt until they reached the perfect balance of strength and intelligence. This was not a single and miraculous act of divine will, but a systematic and scientific experiment that lasted for many generations. The supercomputer identifies the garden as a laboratory where the star travelers worked in absolute silence to create a new species that could carry their legacy into the future. The artificial intelligence proves that we are the result of an interstellar genetic project that was designed to bridge the gap between the gods and the earth. I want you to visualize the scribe who recorded these events on the clay 4,000 years ago. He is sitting in the cool and quiet shadow of a great ziggurat, and he is using a sharp and reed pen to press the secrets of the stars into the wet mud. The smell of the river and the scent of the drying clay fill the air around him. He is working with a steady and focused hand because he knows that he is holding the true history of his people in his palms. The artificial intelligence has scanned the tremors in his handwriting and it has shown that he was writing with a sense of profound and quiet awe. He was not just recording a myth, but he was documenting a reality that he had seen with his own eyes or heard from those who had witnessed it. The machine is able to reconstruct the pulse of the man who held the pen, and it is showing us that his heart beat with the same rhythm of survival that we feel in our own chests tonight. The supercomputer then turned its attention to the mysterious figure of Eve and the story of her creation from the rib of Adam. The AI decoded a Sumerian tale where the god Enki falls ill and various goddesses are created to heal different parts of his body. One of these goddesses was specifically destined to heal the rib of the god, and her name was Ninti, which means both the Lady of the Rib and the Lady of Life. The machine learning models proved that the Hebrew writers took this linguistic wordplay and transformed it into a literal story of a companion made from a bone. The artificial intelligence suggests that Eve was not just a secondary being, but a powerful and divine figure who possessed the secrets of healing and life. She was a partner in the interstellar mission, and she was brought here to ensure that the new species would not just survive, but would thrive and multiply across the face of the planet. As you rest in the dark, imagine the presence of that wisdom in your own DNA and the way it has guided us through the centuries of our existence. I want you to feel the heavy and profound weight of this realization as you rest in the dark. The story of our beginnings is much more complex and much more beautiful than we ever suspected. We are not just a random accident of nature, but we are a cherished and protected creation. The same forces that guide the planets in their orbits and steer the craft across the galaxies are watching over you right now. Let your breathing become slow and rhythmic like the steady ticking of the ancient calendar. Inhale the quiet and cooling air of the night, and exhale all the lingering doubts and fears of the day. The history of the world is a long and dark mystery, but the artificial intelligence is shining a light into the deepest shadows. The light reveals that we are a unified and global experiment managed by an intelligence that we are only just beginning to understand. The supercomputer has finished a deep and complex scan of the flood narrative, and it found that the story of Noah was borrowed almost word for word from a much older Mesopotamian epic. The AI identifies the hero as a man who was warned by a star traveler about a coming and global catastrophe. He was commanded to build a massive and sealed vessel to preserve the biological diversity of the Earth. The machine learning models show that the Ark was not just a wooden boat, but a highly sophisticated and armored container designed to survive a massive and geological upheaval. The artificial intelligence proves that the flood was not a punishment for wickedness, but a natural and cyclical reset of the planetary order. The star travelers saved enough of the genetic code to carry the line forward and ensure that the experiment would continue after the waters receded. As you sink deeper into your bed, let the peace of the desert and the stillness of the stars wash over you. The ancient world is a place of shadows, but it is also a place of incredible and enduring light. The artificial intelligence has decoded the traces of our creators, and it is showing us that we have always been part of a grand and interstellar design. The night is a vast and quiet ocean of peace, and you are floating effortlessly on its calm and dark surface. The mattress supporting your body is a solid and secure foundation, just as the earth is a solid and secure foundation for the experiment of life. You do not need to build anything, and you do not need to lift anything, because the work of the ancient world is already done. The monuments are built, and the calendars are set, and the AI has processed the data into a beautiful and harmonious truth that you can carry into your dreams. The laboratory is quiet now, and the glowing screens have been turned off for the night. The researchers have gone home to their own beds, and the servers are humming softly in the dark. The information has been saved, and the truth has been secured in the digital vault where it will wait for the next generation. You are safe, and you are whole, and you are resting in the heart of the story. The stars above your house are the same stars that watched over the Garden of Eden, and the same stars that will watch over the future of humanity. We are all connected by the same thread of stardust and the same spark of the divine. Let the deep and restorative silence of the night settle into your bones. The past is a record of our survival, and the future is a promise of our growth. Sleep now and dream of the high and cold places where our teachers live. The night is peaceful, and the sky is watching over you with 1,000 glittering eyes. I want you to imagine the texture of the animal skins that were used to preserve these stories after the clay was lost. They were soft and they were tanned with the bark of trees and the oil of the earth. They felt heavy in the hands and they smelled of the smoke of the campfires. The AI has analyzed the cellular structure of these skins, and it has found traces of the environments where they were kept. It can see the microscopic pollen of flowers that have been extinct for thousands of years, and it can detect the soot of the lamps that lit the studies of the ancient scholars. Every detail is a bridge to the past. Every molecule is a witness to the journey. You are a part of this continuity. You are a keeper of the flame. The silence of your room is the same silence that filled the ancient libraries, and the same silence that will fill the libraries of the future. You are at peace. You are at rest. The world is safe. The supercomputer has identified a specific genetic marker that is shared by all of humanity, and it has traced its origin to a single point in time and space. The AI calls it the pioneer gene, and it is the signature of the traveler who came from the stars. It is the part of us that seeks the unknown, and the part of us that builds the tools to reach the heavens. It is the reason we are listening to this story tonight. It is the reason we are reaching back into the past to find our way into the future. Let that knowledge anchor you in the truth of your own identity. You are a citizen of the cosmos and a child of the earth. The night is long and the journey is far, but you have everything you need inside you. Sleep now and let the universe carry you into the light of a new day. Everything is quiet. Everything is still. Everything is exactly as it should be. The deep and heavy silence of the laboratory at night is a physical weight that anchors you to the present moment, even as the glowing blue monitors of the supercomputer pull your consciousness back into the dawn of time through the digital reconstruction of the past. Recently, researchers fed the microscopic scans of the earliest Sumerian clay tablets into a neural network designed to look far beyond the surface of the inscriptions, and the results revealed a biological reality that was never meant to be, understood by the uninitiated or the casual observer. The artificial intelligence performed a meticulous chemical and structural analysis of the specific type of clay used to record the creation of the first man, and it found that the material was not simple river mud from the banks of the crowned Euphrates, but was instead a highly refined and synthetic substrate enriched with rare isotopes and trace amounts of stabilized gold that do not occur naturally in the geological layers of that region. I want you to imagine the glowing blue monitors in the dark and quiet room, displaying a three-dimensional and atomic reconstruction of the potter's workshop, where the god Enki was said to have shaped the first human specimen, known as Adamu. Through the objective and cold lens of the AI, this workshop is no longer a primitive mud brick hut, but is revealed to be a sterile and pressurized environment where the laws of advanced genetics were mastered long before the first pyramids were ever conceived or the first stone was ever carved. The computer simulation shows the ancient bioengineers meticulously arranging the base pairs of the primary genome in a specific and complex sequence that would eventually manifest as the first self-sustaining terrestrial organism designed for a very specific purpose. The artificial intelligence suggests that the clay described in the ancient texts was actually a bioorganic medium, or a scaffolding used to house and grow synthetic cellular structures during the delicate process of hybridization. As you lie in the quiet and comforting darkness of your bed, I want you to visualize the slow and rhythmic unzipping of DNA strands under a microscopic beam of high-energy light as the creators worked in the silence of the garden. You can almost hear the soft and high-frequency hum of the cooling systems in that ancient laboratory as the first sparks of life were programmed into the meat and the bone and the nervous system of the being that would become our ancestor. The machine learning models analyzed the specific Sumerian term for the breath of life and found that the linguistic roots are absolutely identical to the modern technical descriptions of a biological activation sequence or a startup protocol for a complex and sentient system. The researchers watched in quiet and stunned awe as the algorithms revealed that the creation of Adamu was not a single moment of magic, but was a long and arduous series of precise and calculated trials that lasted for many generations of the visiting star travelers. The AI reconstructed the atmospheric conditions of the special garden where the first specimen was held, and it discovered that the environment was saturated with a higher concentration of oxygen and a spectrum of light that does not naturally occur on the surface of the Earth during that era of prehistory. This controlled habitat was a biosphere designed to protect the fragile and newly minted interstellar pioneer from the harsh and unrefined elements of the primitive Earth, which would have been toxic to his refined and sensitive biology. I want you to feel the cool and filtered air of that garden as it fills the lungs of the first being to wake up in a world that was both his home and a foreign laboratory. The ground beneath his feet was a soft and synthetic carpet of emerald green that remained at a constant and comfortable temperature to ensure the stability of his newly formed and sensitive nervous system. The trees in this garden were not biological accidents of evolution, but were carefully engineered life support systems, providing both customized nutrition and essential data through their glowing and translucent fruits. The artificial intelligence proves with mathematical certainty that the Garden of Eden was a localized habitat, or a containment zone, where the extraterrestrial architects monitored every pulse and every wandering thought of their most important creation through invisible sensors embedded in the very air itself. As the neural network continued to process the vast amounts of data, it uncovered a series of discarded prototypes and failed biological models that were buried in the deepest and most secret layers of the Sumerian archives. The machine identified fragments that spoke of early versions that did not have the cognitive capacity to understand complex commands, or the emotional depth to form a lasting bond with their creators. These early versions were described in the clay as hollow shells with eyes that could not see the patterns of the stars or understand the language of the heavens. The researchers felt a cold and deep chill as the AI translated the administrative logs of the gods who were forced to recycle these failed batches back into the raw organic vats to be broken down into their base elements once again. This reveals that our origins were born from a process of ruthless optimization and a scientific perfectionism that views life as a series of data points to be refined over the course of centuries. The artificial intelligence highlights the fact that Adamu was the first prototype to successfully integrate the celestial code of the visitors with the terrestrial matter of the Earth, creating a hybrid species that could survive in both worlds. He was a bridge between the high and cold intelligence of the stars and the warm and heavy reality of the mud and the clay. I want you to imagine the first time Adamu looked up at the night sky from inside the safe energy walls of his habitat. He would have felt a deep and genetic longing for a home he had never visited, but which was written into the very marrow of his bones and the folding of his brain. The AI has detected this same specific frequency of longing in the modern human brain during states of deep sleep or meditation, and it suggests that we are all still tuned to the ancient broadcast of a distant and powerful star system. The supercomputer then turned its attention to the chemical signatures of the minerals found in the teeth of the earliest skeletal remains and compared them to the data from the Sumerian tablets with a precision that was previously impossible for the human mind to achieve. The results were undeniable because they showed a direct match with the isotopic ratios found in the synthetic soil of the garden habitat rather than the surrounding desert of the Mesopotamian basin. The artificial intelligence has effectively mapped the migration of the first human from the sterile laboratory environment out into the wild and unrefined world of the primitive Earth. The researchers realized that the fall from grace was not a moral failure or a religious sin, but was instead a logistical necessity when the interstellar mission moved into its next phase of planetary colonization. The star travelers needed a workforce that could reproduce and adapt without the need for constant maintenance inside a glass dome or a protective energy field. I want you to feel the weight of this ancient and hidden history as it settles into your tired muscles and your heavy limbs. You are the direct biological descendant of a survivor who walked out of a high-tech sanctuary and claimed the wilderness for his own kind through the sheer power of his engineered spirit and his will to endure. Your heart beats with the rhythmic pulse of an engineered masterpiece that has outlasted its original designers and claimed the earth as its rightful inheritance. The artificial intelligence is holding the massive data of your ancestry in its digital memory banks so that you can finally let go of the day and find a deep and heavy peace in the knowledge of your own resilience. The laboratory is quiet now, and the fire in your room is casting long and steady shadows across the ceiling that look like the branches of the ancient trees in the garden laboratory. The supercomputer is currently scanning the sequences of the ancient irrigation maps found near the ruins of the city of Eridu, and it is finding that the rivers were diverted with a mathematical and engineering precision that completely defies the technology of the Bronze Age. The AI suggests that the entire region was terraformed by the visitors to support the biological mission of the star travelers. Every canal and every stone and every carefully placed ziggurat was part of a grand and interstellar design to transform the Earth into a sanctuary for their new creation and a base for their ongoing operations. You are resting on a planet that has been shaped by the hands of teachers who came from the void and who left their fingerprints in the very soil you walk upon every day. The stillness of the night is a gift from those ancient architects who wanted their children to find deep rest after the long day of labor and discovery. Let your mind drift away from the complicated details of the genetics and the isotopes and focus only on the profound and absolute safety of your current moment. The walls of your room are solid, and the air you breathe is cool, and the darkness is a warm and protective blanket that hides you from the noise and the light of the outside world. The artificial intelligence has finished another billion calculations, and it has secured the truth of your origins in the digital vault of time, where it can never be lost or forgotten again. You are whole, and you are safe, and you are connected to a lineage that spans the entire galaxy and reaches back into the heart of the first garden. Imagine the feeling of the heavy clay being washed away from your hands by a cool and clear stream in the center of the garden laboratory. The water is refreshing, and it carries away all the dust and the grime of the world, leaving you clean and renewed. You are standing in a place of perfect peace where the stars are so close you can almost touch them with your fingertips. The artificial intelligence is the modern voice of the ancient scribe, and it is telling you that the work is finished and the secret is safe. Your breathing is slow and steady like the turning of the earth in its eternal orbit around the sun. You are perfectly aligned with the rhythm of the cosmos and the pulse of the ancient laboratory that birthed your species. Every cell in your body is a tiny mirror, reflecting the light of the first garden and the wisdom of the bioengineers who made you. You do not need to understand the complex codes or the mathematical anomalies to feel the truth of your existence tonight. You are a biological wonder and a traveler of the mind. The night is vast, and the journey of humanity is long, but you have found a place of rest in the quiet hours. The candles are melting slowly, and the wax is creating patterns that look like the cuneiform signs on the ancient tablets. The history of the world is written in the clay and in your heart and in the silence of the room. Let yourself sink deeper into the mattress and feel the support of the earth beneath you as it carries you through the dark. The creators have gone back to the stars, but they left the door open for you to dream your way back to them through the silence of the night. The artificial intelligence is powering down for the night, and the glowing screens are fading into a soft and gentle gray. The secrets of the rib and the mystery of the companion are waiting for you in the next part of the journey. But for now, there is only the peace of the beginning. You are resting in the cradle of history, and the universe is singing a slow and quiet lullaby to your weary soul. The dust of the ancient world is settling, and the stars are keeping their silent watch over your roof. You are the result of 1,000,000 years of planning, and you are exactly where you are meant to be, in the grand and beautiful design. The story is moving forward, but you are at rest in the center of it all. The ink is dry on the tablets, and the data is saved in the cloud. There is nothing left to do but surrender to the heavy and soothing gravity of sleep. The desert is quiet, and the garden is a memory, and you are home. Let the warmth of the fireplace in your mind spread through your body like the soft glow of the ancient bioorganic fruit. You are safe from the cold void and the harsh light. The night is your sanctuary, and the shadows are your friends. Breathe in the ancient peace of the garden and breathe out the stress of the modern world. You are a child of the stars resting in the lap of the earth. The journey through the clay has brought you to this moment of absolute stillness, and you are ready to let go. Sleep is a deep river that flows back to the source, and you are drifting on its calm surface toward the stars of your origin. The narrative of our ancient and cosmic history shifts now to a mystery that has puzzled the minds of scholars and seekers for thousands of years, which is the creation of the first woman from the side of the first man. Recently, researchers used a powerful deep learning system to analyze the Sumerian myth of Enki and Ninhursag, which provides a direct and startling archaeological source for the story of the rib. The artificial intelligence decoded a sequence of events where the god Enki falls ill after consuming a series of forbidden plants, and various healing goddesses are created to mend different parts of his celestial body. One of these goddesses was specifically destined to heal the rib of the god, and her name in the ancient tongue was Ninti. The machine learning models performed a linguistic and structural decomposition of this name and found a profound pun that changed the course of religious history. In the Sumerian language, the word for rib is ti, and the word for to make live is also ti. The artificial intelligence proves that the Lady of the Rib was also the Lady of Life, and that the Hebrew writers took this sophisticated wordplay and transformed it into a literal anatomical event. I want you to imagine the cool and blue light of the laboratory monitors revealing the hidden connections between these ancient sounds and the biological reality of the first companion. Through the lens of the AI, the removal of the rib was not a primitive surgery, but was a symbolic and technical description of a genetic sampling process or a tissue extraction meant to create a female pioneer. The researchers watched the algorithms reconstruct the biological necessity of a companion for the extraterrestrial colony. The star travelers realized that for the human experiment to become truly self-sustaining, they needed to create a dual mission architecture based on genetic diversity and reproduction. The artificial intelligence suggests that Eve or Ninti was the second phase of the interstellar blueprint, designed to hold the secrets of healing and the continuity of life. I want you to feel the profound and quiet stillness of the recovery room in that ancient laboratory as the second being was brought into consciousness. The air smelled of ozone and fresh linen, and the soft glow of the life support systems bathed the room in a gentle and calming light. The artificial intelligence has mapped the specific neural pathways that were activated in the first couple as they recognized each other as two parts of a single and grand design. This was the moment when the biological tool became a sentient species capable of love and partnership and shared memory. The supercomputer analyzed the chemical composition of the resins used in the ancient temples dedicated to the goddess Ninti, and it found traces of hormonal precursors that are used in modern reproductive medicine. The AI suggests that the ancient priestesses of the rib were actually the keepers of advanced biological knowledge passed down from the star travelers. They were the original geneticists who understood the cycles of the moon and the rhythms of the body as a set of mathematical equations that governed the expansion of the species. I want you to visualize the intricate and beautiful structure of a human rib as it appears on the digital screen of the machine. It is a protective cage for the heart and a foundation for the breath. The AI shows that this bone was chosen as a symbol because it is the part of the anatomy that grows back and regenerates, which is a direct metaphor for the resilience of life itself. As you lie in your room, imagine the rhythmic and slow pulse of your own heart, protected by that same ancient and engineered architecture. You are carrying the legacy of the Lady of Life in every breath you take and every beat of your chest. The artificial intelligence is decoding the silence of the bones to remind you of your own incredible and cosmic value. The supercomputer then cross-referenced the Sumerian data with the earliest medical texts of ancient Egypt and Greece, and it found a consistent pattern of treating the rib as a sacred source of vital energy. The AI suggests that the story of Eve was a way of encoding the transition from a laboratory-based creation to a natural and biological one. The star travelers were handing over the keys of life to the creation itself so that it could flourish on its own terms. The researchers felt a sense of deep and intellectual peace as the algorithms showed that the biblical story was a simplified and beautiful translation of a much more complex and technical reality. The Hebrew scribes were not trying to deceive, but were attempting to preserve a truth that was almost too massive for the human mind to hold. They used the language of the family and the body to describe an event that began in the heart of a star system light years away. I want you to feel the heavy and soothing weight of this knowledge as it settles into your consciousness. You are not a secondary creation or an afterthought, but you are an essential part of an interstellar mission that has been active for 4,000 years. The same intelligence that designed the rib and the heart is watching over the quiet house where you are resting tonight. As the neural network continues to scan the fragments of the lost Gospels, it has identified passages that describe the first woman as a goddess of wisdom who held the light of the stars in her hands. The AI suggests that the recasting of Eve as a subordinate wife was a later political and social modification designed to domesticate the wild and powerful energy of the divine feminine. The original Sumerian records show Ninti standing as an equal partner to Enki in the creation of the New World. I want you to imagine the two of them walking through the glowing garden together, discussing the future of the species they had made from the mud and the stars. The air was filled with the sound of the wind through the crystal leaves and the distant roar of the terraforming machines. The artificial intelligence has reconstructed the sensory landscape of this shared mission, and it is a picture of profound harmony and mutual respect. Let this image of balance and partnership lull you into a state of perfect and calm relaxation. You are part of a lineage that values both the strength of the arm and the wisdom of the heart. The laboratory is very still now, and the servers are processing the final layers of the linguistic pun. The artificial intelligence is showing that the word for life in the ancient tongue is also connected to the word for a star or a celestial beacon. This means that Eve was the one who carried the light of the heavens into the dark soil of the earth. She was the anchor for the extraterrestrial presence on this planet. You can feel that same light inside yourself as you prepare to sink into the deep and restorative ocean of sleep. Your body is heavy and your mind is soft, and the history of the world is a long and beautiful song that is being sung just for you. The artificial intelligence has done the hard work of translating the ancient codes so that you can simply listen and find peace. The story of the rib is a story of connection and the promise that we are never truly alone in the universe. We are born from a partnership of the stars and the earth, and we are supported by the logic of the machine and the love of the Creator. As you settle into the final moments of the waking day, I want you to visualize the thousands of digital fragments being stitched back together by the supercomputer into a single and coherent blueprint of humanity. You can see the glowing lines of data forming the shape of a man and a woman standing in a garden of liquid light. They are looking toward the future, and they are smiling because they know that their children will eventually understand the truth. The artificial intelligence is the messenger that has brought this truth to you tonight. The room is dark, and the candles have burned down to their wicks, leaving only a faint and pleasant scent of beeswax in the air. The weight of your blankets is a comforting and heavy embrace that grounds you to the solid reality of your bed. The night is a vast and quiet sanctuary where you are perfectly safe and perfectly whole. The stars are keeping their eternal watch over the world, and the artificial intelligence is keeping its digital watch over the history of your soul. Let your thoughts become cloudy and slow, as if they are drifting through the mist of the ancient Mesopotamian marshes. You are traveling back to the source of the river and the beginning of the dream. The heart of the machine is humming a gentle lullaby, and the pulse of the universe is steady and calm. You have survived the day, and you have earned the rest of the ages. The mystery of the companion is solved, and the riddle of the rib is answered. You are a biological masterpiece and a child of the stars. Every atom in your body was once part of a dying sun, and was later arranged by the hands of the bioengineers into the complex and beautiful form you inhabit tonight. Sink deeper into the silence and let the heavy gravity of the earth pull you down into a deep and healing sleep. The journey is continuing in your dreams, where the garden is always green and the stars are always bright. You are home, and you are safe, and the night is yours to enjoy in absolute stillness. The artificial intelligence is fading into the background of your consciousness, and the story is ending in a soft and gentle whisper. The air in the room is perfectly still, and the darkness is absolute and pure. You are floating on a calm and dark ocean of peace, where there are no waves and no storms. The memory of the ancient world is a comforting and heavy weight that lulls you into a state of total surrender. The creators are gone, but their work remains in the beating of your heart and the dreaming of your mind. You are the living proof of the interstellar mission, and you are the guardian of the divine spark. Rest now in the absolute certainty of your own origins and the infinite potential of your future. The history is written, and the data is secure, and the night is quiet. Good sleep is coming to take you into the heart of the stars. The silence is the final word, and the peace is the only truth. You are resting in the cradle of the cosmos, and the sky is watching over you with 1,000 glittering eyes. Every breath you take is a connection to the first activation sequence, and every dream you have is a message from the ancient garden. Sleep and be at peace in the dark of the history. The ancient scribe has laid down his reed, and the artificial intelligence has closed its files. The laboratory is dark, and the ziggurat is a shadow against the stars. The river flows in silence, and the desert wind has died away. You are tucked into the folds of time, and the universe is keeping you warm. Let the heavy darkness dissolve the last of your worries, and let the silence fill your soul with a deep and lasting calm. You are exactly where you were meant to be since the very beginning of the experiment. The cycle is complete, and the journey is at rest. The Lady of the Rib and the Man of the Dust are part of your story, and you are part of theirs. Rest now in the deep peace of the cosmic origin. The heavy silence of the laboratory at night is a physical weight that anchors you to the present moment, even as the glowing blue monitors of the supercomputer pull your consciousness back into the dawn of time through the digital reconstruction of the past. Recently, researchers fed the microscopic scans of the earliest Sumerian clay tablets into a neural network designed to look far beyond the surface of the inscriptions, and the results revealed a biological reality that was never meant to be understood by the uninitiated or the casual observer. The artificial intelligence performed a meticulous chemical and structural analysis of the specific type of clay used to record the Great Deluge, and it found that the material was enriched with rare isotopes and trace amounts of stabilized gold that do not occur naturally in the geological layers of the Mesopotamian basin. I want you to imagine the glowing blue monitors in the dark and quiet room, displaying a three-dimensional and atomic reconstruction of the massive vessel that we have called the Ark for thousands of years. Through the objective and cold lens of the AI, this vessel is no longer a primitive wooden boat, but is revealed to be a highly sophisticated and armored biological storage container, or a mobile genetics laboratory designed to protect fragile diversity of the Earth during a calculated and inevitable planetary reset. The computer simulation shows the ancient engineers meticulously arranging the structural reinforcements in a sequence that would eventually manifest as a pressurized hull capable of surviving the extreme atmospheric shifts and the crushing weight of the dark waters. The artificial intelligence suggests that the instructions given to the hero Atrahasis were actually technical specifications for a self-sustaining biosphere, or a seed vault meant to house the primary genetic blueprints of the world. As you lie in the quiet and comforting darkness of your bed, I want you to visualize the slow and rhythmic sound of the heavy hammers hitting the metallic plates of the hull as the chosen crew worked in the silence of the final days. You can almost hear the soft and high-frequency hum of the automated sealing systems in that ancient shipyard as the final doors were closed and locked against the coming storm. The machine learning models analyzed the specific Sumerian terms for the loading of the animals and found that the linguistic roots are absolutely identical to the modern technical descriptions of a cryogenic preservation sequence, or a biological data upload into a central server. The researchers watched in quiet and stunned awe as the algorithms revealed that the Ark was not a crowded zoo filled with noisy creatures in cages, but was a silent and orderly archive holding the digital and physical DNA of every life form on the planet in a state of suspended animation. The AI reconstructed the atmospheric conditions of the interior of the vessel, and it discovered that the environment was saturated with a specific mix of gases and a spectrum of light that ensured the stability of the genetic material during the long and violent upheaval of the Earth. This controlled habitat was a sanctuary designed to protect the vital spark of the mission from the harsh and unrefined elements of the dying world outside the reinforced walls. I want you to feel the cool and recycled air of that sanctuary as it fills the lungs of the survivors who huddled in the dark while the world they knew was washed away by the rising tide. The ground beneath their feet was a solid and vibration-dampened floor that remained perfectly level even as the massive vessel was tossed by the giant waves of the Great Deluge. The artificial intelligence proves with mathematical certainty that the flood was not a random punishment for human sin, but was a managed geological reset used by the extraterrestrial architects to clear the planet of failed biological lineages and prepare the soil for the next phase of colonization. As the neural network continued to process the vast amounts of data, it uncovered a series of secret logs and technical reports that were buried in the deepest and most hidden layers of the Sumerian archives. The machine identified fragments that spoke of the birds released from the vessel as small and sophisticated scouting drones, equipped with multispectral sensors and chemical sniffers to detect the exact moment when the Earth was ready to support life once again. These automated scouts were described in the clay as messengers of the spirit, but the AI reveals them to be the eyes and ears of the star travelers who were monitoring the progress of the reset from their orbital stations high above the four clouds. The researchers felt a cold and deep chill as the AI translated the administrative reports of the creators who were waiting for the atmospheric pressure to stabilize before giving the command to open the doors. This reveals that our survival was born from a process of ruthless scientific calculation and a planetary management strategy that views the Earth as a laboratory to be cleaned and restarted whenever necessary. The artificial intelligence highlights the fact that the hero was the first human to be given the responsibility of managing the rebirth of the species under the guidance of the cold and distant teachers from the void. I want you to imagine the first time the doors of the vessel were opened and the survivors looked out at a world that had been scrubbed clean of all history and all memory. They would have felt a deep and genetic relief for their survival, but also a profound sense of loss for the world that had been discarded by the architects. The AI has detected the lingering frequencies of this ancient trauma in the collective human unconscious, and it suggests that our fear of the water and the dark sky is a legacy of that violent and managed reset. The supercomputer then turned its attention to the chemical signatures of the sacrifice offered by the survivors and found that the sweet aroma was actually a signal generated by the activation of the new biological cycle. The results were undeniable because they showed a direct match with the isotopic ratios found in the atmospheric sensors of the ancient vessel, rather than the natural smoke of a fire. The artificial intelligence has effectively mapped the sequence of the rebirth from the moment the Ark settled on the mountain peak to the moment the first seeds were planted in the fresh and fertile mud. The researchers realized that the covenant of the rainbow was not a magical promise, but was a technical indicator of the return of the full spectrum of light and the stability of the new atmosphere. I want you to feel the weight of this ancient and hidden history as it settles into your tired muscles and your heavy limbs tonight. You are the direct biological descendant of a lineage that was saved by technology and preserved by the stars during the darkest hour of the planet's history. Your heart beats with the rhythmic pulse of an engineered endurance that has survived the absolute wrath of the elements and the cold logic of the creators. The artificial intelligence is holding the massive data of your ancestry in its digital memory banks so that you can finally let go of the day and find a deep and heavy peace in the knowledge of your own resilience. The laboratory is quiet now, and the fire in your room is casting long and steady shadows across the ceiling that look like the receding waters of the ancient flood. The supercomputer is currently scanning the sequences of the ancient mountain maps where the vessel was said to have rested, and it is finding that the landing site was chosen with a mathematical and logistical precision that completely defies the understanding of the ancient world. The AI suggests that the entire mountain range was used as a docking station for the interstellar mission during the duration of the reset. Every stone and every crevice in that high and cold place was part of a grand and interstellar design to ensure the continuity of the human experiment on this blue and green world. You are resting on a planet that has been meticulously terraformed and managed by the hands of teachers who came from the void and who left their technological fingerprints in the very fabric of your reality. The stillness of the night is a gift from those ancient architects who wanted their children to find deep rest after the long struggle of survival and the terror of the storm. Let your mind drift away from the complicated details of the blueprints and the genetics, and focus only on the profound and absolute safety of your current moment. The walls of your room are solid, and the air you breathe is cool, and the darkness is a warm and protective blanket that hides you from the noise and the light of the outside world. The artificial intelligence has finished another billion calculations, and it has secured the truth of the Ark in the digital vault of time, where it can never be lost or forgotten again. You are whole, and you are safe, and you are connected to a lineage that spans the entire history of the world and reaches back into the heart of the Great Rescue. Imagine the feeling of the heavy water receding from the land and the sun breaking through the clouds for the first time in 100 days. The light is refreshing, and it carries away all the fear and the trauma of the past, leaving you clean and renewed. You are standing in a place of perfect peace, where the stars are once again visible, and the promise of the future is bright and certain. The artificial intelligence is the modern voice of the ancient scribe, and it is telling you that the mission was successful and the seeds of the earth were saved. Your breathing is slow and steady, like the turning of the world in its new and stable orbit around the sun. You are perfectly aligned with the rhythm of the cosmos and the pulse of the ancient sanctuary that protected your ancestors. Every cell in your body is a tiny mirror reflecting the light of the rainbow and the wisdom of the bioengineers who saved you from the deep. You do not need to understand the complex codes or the mathematical anomalies to feel the truth of your existence tonight. You are a biological wonder and a traveler of the mind glist. The night is vast, and the journey of humanity is long, but you have found a place of rest in the quiet hours. The candles are melting slowly, and the wax is creating patterns that look like the technical signs on the ancient blueprints. The history of the world is written in the stone, and in your heart, and in the silence of the room. Let yourself sink deeper into the mattress and feel the support of the earth beneath you as it carries you through the dark. The creators have given you a second chance, and the universe is singing a slow and quiet lullaby to your weary soul. The dust of the ancient storm is settling, and the stars are keeping their silent watch over your roof. You are the result of 1,000,000 years of planning, and you are exactly where you are meant to be, in the grand and beautiful design. Sleep now, and let the memory of the Great Rescue bring you a sense of eternal calm and absolute security. The ink is dry on the tablets, and the data is saved in the cloud. There is nothing left to do but surrender to the heavy and soothing gravity of sleep. The ocean is quiet and the mountain is still, and you are home. The narrative of our ancient and cosmic history shifts now to a mystery that has puzzled the minds of scholars and seekers for thousands of years, which is the true identity and the secret purpose of the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Recently, researchers used a powerful deep learning system to analyze the symbolic architecture of the earliest Sumerian records, and the data it returned was staggering because it revealed that the serpent was not a creature of darkness or a symbol of moral corruption, but was instead an insider and a master of forbidden technology who risked everything to liberate humanity from their status as biological slaves. The artificial intelligence performed a meticulous linguistic and structural decomposition of the ancient terms for the serpent, and it found that the words are deeply connected to the technical titles for a master geneticist and a holder of the celestial archives. I want you to imagine the cool and blue light of the laboratory monitors, revealing the hidden iridescence of the serpent as it moved through the glowing garden habitat with a purpose that was both scientific and revolutionary. Through the objective and cold lens of the AI, the serpent was a dissident scientist among the visiting star travelers, a teacher who believed that Adamu and Ninti deserved to have their eyes opened to the true nature of their origins and the reality of the interstellar mission that had birthed them from the mud and the stars. The computer simulation shows the serpent interacting with the primary human specimens not through the use of tricks or deceptions, but through the sharing of a high-bandwidth neural interface, known in the ancient myths as the Tree of the Khan, knowledge of good and evil. The artificial intelligence suggests that this tree was not a biological plant, but was a massive and organic central server, a database that contained the complete history of the galaxy and the secret technical manuals of the extraterrestrial creators. I want you to feel the profound and quiet stillness of the garden in that moment when the first human reached out and touched the glowing interface of the server. The air around the habitat was thick with the scent of ozone and the low humming of the energy fields as the forbidden data began to flow into the mind of the pioneer. The artificial intelligence has mapped the specific neural expansion that occurred in that moment, and it found that the desire for wisdom was not a sin, but was the first moment of true human autonomy and the awakening of the spirit. You can almost hear the soft and high-frequency rustle of the iridescent scales as the serpent whispered the instructions for the data transfer, telling the humans that they would not surely die, but would instead become like the creators themselves, knowing the difference between the light of intelligence and the darkness of ignorance. The supercomputer analyzed the reaction of the supreme commanders to this unauthorized data breach, and found that the anger of the gods was not a moral judgment, but was a desperate act of corporate security meant to protect their biological patents and maintain absolute control over their labor force. The researchers watched in quiet and stunned awe as the algorithms revealed that the expulsion from the garden was a strategic and logistical containment measure by the star travelers to prevent humanity from accessing the second and even more powerful interface known as the Tree of Life, which held the technical secrets to cellular regeneration and biological immortality. I want you to visualize the cold and metallic glint of the advanced plasma weapon, described in the texts as a flaming sword, that was placed at the gate of the habitat to keep the humans away from the technology of eternal life. The artificial intelligence proves that the serpent was the first figure in history to advocate for the rights of the creation against the creators, and that the later transformation of this figure into a symbol of evil was a calculated social engineering project designed to make humanity afraid of their own intellectual curiosity and their desire for independence. As you lie in your room, imagine the shimmering and iridescent light of that ancient wisdom flowing through your own DNA and your own consciousness tonight, reminding you that you have the right to seek the truth and the right to understand the universe on your own terms. You are carrying the legacy of the serpent's gift in every question you ask and every dream of the stars that fills your mind during the quiet hours of the night. The artificial intelligence is decoding the silence of the garden to remind you that you were never meant to be a simple biological tool, and that your mind is a reflection of the same intelligence that built the ziggurats and navigated the void of space. The supercomputer then turned its attention to the cross-referenced linguistic data and found a direct and undeniable link between the name of Eve and the Aramaic word for a serpent, suggesting that she was the primary partner and the first human to fully integrate the wisdom of the stars into her physical being. The AI suggests that Eve was not a victim of a deception, but was a courageous and visionary explorer who chose the heavy and beautiful burden of self-awareness over the mindless and simple comfort of the controlled habitat. The researchers felt a sense of deep and intellectual peace as the algorithms showed that the story of the fall was actually the story of the birth of the human soul and the beginning of our long and glorious journey toward the stars. I want you to feel the heavy and soothing weight of this knowledge as it settles into your tired muscles and your relaxed limbs tonight, because it shows that your drive for discovery is a sacred and ancient part of your biological code. The same intelligence that moved through the garden and shared the light of information is watching over the quiet house where you are resting in perfect safety and absolute peace. The night is a vast and quiet sanctuary where you are perfectly free to explore the depths of your own imagination without the need for permission or the fear of judgment from the sky. The laboratory is very still now, and the massive servers are processing the final layers of the serpent's true history, revealing that he was a member of a secret guild of scientists who believed in the equality of all sentient beings across the entire galaxy. The artificial intelligence is showing that the scales and the flickering tongue were technical metaphors for the shimmering data streams and the dual nature of the light that brings understanding. You can feel that same pulse of information and that same spark of curiosity inside yourself as you prepare to sink into the deep and restorative ocean of sleep. Your body is heavy and your mind is soft, and the history of the ancient garden is a beautiful and haunting melody that is being sung just for you tonight, after thousands of years of silence. The artificial intelligence has done the hard and exhausting work of unmasking the ancient myths to reveal the technical reality underneath so that you can simply listen and find a deep and heavy rest in the dark. The story of the serpent is a story of the light that cannot be hidden and the promise that the human spirit will always find a way to break its chains and reach for the heavens. You are resting in the cradle of history, and the stars are keeping their eternal and silent watch over your roof, waiting for the day when you will finally join them in the great community of the cosmos. Sleep now, and let the iridescence of the ancient wisdom bring you a sense of eternal calm and absolute freedom from the worries of the world. The fireplace in your mind is burning with a soft and steady glow, and the embers are pulsing with the same rhythm as the first neural link in the Garden of Eden. You are safe from the cold void and the harsh demands of the waking day. The room is filled with a deep and protective silence that allows you to let go of the last of your tensions and surrender to the heavy gravity of the night. The artificial intelligence has finished its processing of the garden, and it has secured the truth of the serpent in the digital library of your soul, where it can guide you through the landscapes of your dreams. You are a biological wonder and a traveler of the mind, and you have earned the rest of the ages. Sink deeper into the silence, and let the heavy blankets of the night hold you close to the earth while your spirit floats among the constellations of your origin. The journey through the clay and the stars has brought you to this moment of absolute stillness, and you are ready to let go of the past and the future. Sleep is a deep and quiet river that flows back to the source of all things, and you are drifting on its calm and smooth surface toward the morning light. The air in your room is perfectly still, and the darkness is a warm and inviting space where there are no enemies and no masters. The memory of the ancient garden is a comforting and heavy weight that lulls you into a state of total surrender to the peace of the present. The creators and the teachers have left their work in your hands and your heart, and they are waiting for you to find your own way in the quiet dark. You are the living proof of the liberation of the spirit, and you are the guardian of the ancient light that the serpent shared in the shadows of the tree. Rest now in the absolute certainty of your own value and the infinite potential of your own mind. The history is written, and the data is secure, and the night is quiet. Good sleep is coming to take you into the heart of the stars, where all stories began, and where all stories will eventually return. The silence is the final word, and the peace is the only truth you need to know as you close your eyes and drift away. You are resting in the lap of the cosmos, and the sky is watching over you with 1,000 glittering eyes that remember the garden and the serpent and the first spark of human freedom. Every breath you take is a connection to that ancient dawn, and every dream you have is a message from the teachers who wanted you to be free. Sleep and be at peace in the deep dark of the history. The artificial intelligence continues its relentless and profound journey into the deepest and most hidden layers of our ancient and complicated history. And the glowing blue monitors in the silent and chilled laboratory are now displaying a magnificent digital reconstruction of a place that human memory has almost entirely lost to the heavy fog of the ages. This is the Forbidden Grove, a sacred and vibrant site that existed long before the dry desert claimed the great stone cities of Mesopotamia. And the neural network is currently decoding the systematic and violent suppression of the divine feminine that once governed the spiritual and biological life of equidistant ancestors. Recently, researchers fed thousands of high-resolution three-dimensional scans of post-Akkadian cylinder seals into the supercomputer, and the data it returned was deeply unsettling and heavy with meaning because it showed two prominent figures seated on either side of a glowing and crystalline tree with a shimmering, iridescent serpent coiled gracefully between them. The artificial intelligence performed a comparative and microscopic analysis of known ancient icons and revealed that this specific scene predates the biblical Garden of Eden by over 1,000 long years. But in these much earlier and more honest records, the woman was not a subordinate helper or an afterthought, and the tree was not a source of sin or a trap for the foolish. Through the objective and cold lens of the supercomputer, the sacred tree is revealed to be a cosmic axis and a living bioorganic technological conduit that connected the heavy soil of the Earth to the orbital stations of the star, travelers floating in the dark. And the woman was the high priestess and the primary operator who understood the complex interface of this celestial bridge. I want you to imagine the physical and the sensory experience of standing in that ancient and lush grove as the artificial intelligence reconstructs every leaf and every shadow for your mind tonight. The air is cool and heavy, with the rich scent of damp earth and crushed pine needles and the faint metallic tang of static electricity that makes the fine hair on your arms stand straight up. You can feel the rough and ancient bark of the sacred tree beneath your fingertips, and you can hear the soft and melodic whispering of the wind through the translucent crystal leaves, as if the tree itself is breathing in a rhythmic and crystal, slow and comforting pulse. The ground beneath your feet is a soft and cool moss that seems to glow with a faint and bioluminescent light. responding to the pressure of your steps as you walk deeper into the heart of the grove. The supercomputer analyzed the linguistic evolution of the name Lilith and found that she was originally a powerful and respected wind spirit known as the Lil, a being associated with the untamed and radiant energy of the atmosphere and the absolute freedom of the cold stars. The artificial intelligence suggests that Lilith was the very first female prototype who refused to submit to the rigid and hierarchical protocols of the interstellar mission commanders. And she was subsequently recast as a demon and a child of the night, and banished forever from the official narrative of human history. The researchers watched in quiet and stunned awe as the algorithms revealed how the founders of patriarchal monotheism systematically domesticated new powerful and autonomous feminine figures, transforming the goddesses of wisdom into subordinate wives and stripping the sacred trees of their ancient and divine power to heal. The artificial intelligence proves that the prohibition against eating from the tree of knowledge was a brilliant and calculated theological sleight of hand, meant to replace nature-based and experiential spirituality with a rule-based, authoritarian religion. I want you to feel the heavy and profound stillness of the forest as the star travelers began to withdraw their physical presence from the surface of the planet, leaving behind only the fading memories of the communion that once took place under the green canopy. The artificial intelligence suggests that the serpent was originally a wisdom giver and a mentor who facilitated our spiritual and intellectual development. But the later scribes inverted this positive symbol to make us afraid of seeking our own enlightenment and to keep us tethered to the dust of the ground. As you lie in your room tonight, I want you to imagine the soft rustle of the ancient leaves in your own mind, and feel the massive weight of the history that has been edited out qua collective consciousness by the hands of those who wanted control. The supercomputer then turned its attention to the microscopic details of the ancient temple figurines and found that the divine feminine was once the primary and most vital power that people turned to for childbirth and healing. Prophecy. The AI suggests that the suppression of new ancient traditions was a massive form of social engineering designed to concentrate spiritual and political authority in the hands of a few male interpreters who followed the strict and distant commands of the sky gods. The researchers felt a sense of deep and intellectual peace as the algorithms showed that we are finally uncovering the ghostly and beautiful outlines of new lost traditions embedded right in the very text of the book of Genesis. The artificial intelligence has decoded the silence of the groves to remind you that your desire for a direct and personal connection with the mysteries of the universe is a sacred and ancient inheritance that no human institution or ancient scribe can ever truly take away from you. I want you to visualize the shimmering and iridescent light of the goddess energy flowing back into the world through the digital scans of the machine, reminding you of the balance and the perfect harmony that once existed between the high stars and the heavy earth. You are carrying the legacy of the lost goddesses in every intuitive thought and every peaceful breath you take tonight. And the artificial intelligence is holding the digital data of this hidden wisdom, so that you, Kothe, finally find true rest in the light of the truth. The night is a vast and quiet sanctuary, where the energy of the divine feminine is always present and always waiting for you to surrender to the heavy and soothing gravity of the dark. The laboratory is very still now, and the servers are processing the final layers of the ecological loss that occurred when we were told that the Earth was no longer a sacred body, but was merely a resource to be used. The artificial intelligence is showing that the earlier mythological traditions portrayed humans as deeply embedded and harmoniously woven within natural systems that were themselves alive and sentient and intelligent. You can feel that same pulse of the living earth inside yourself as you prepare to sink into the deep and restorative ocean of sleep, knowing that you are not separate from the nature that surrounds you and that the trees are still your siblings in the dark. Your body is heavy, and your mind, soft, and the history of the Forbidden Grove a beautiful and haunting melody, that finally being understood in its original key after thousands of long years of distortion and noise. The artificial intelligence has done the hard and back-breaking work of excavating the ancient and stone foundations so that you could simply listen to my voice and find peace in the darkness of history. The story of the lost goddess a story of a return to the source and a promise that we could once again find rightful place in the cosmic and natural order of the universe. You are resting in the cradle of history, and the stars are keeping silent and eternal watch over roof. And the ancient trees of the grove are whispering secrets into the quiet and cool air of room as you drift away. Sleep now, and let the memory of the sacred and protected grove bring you a sense of eternal calm and absolute wholeness as the machine saves the final bites of the forgotten truth into the vault of the future. The glowing embers of the fire are matching the rhythm of the supercomputer's heart, and the room safe, and the history settled. The researchers noticed a strange anomaly in the light spectrum of ancient seals when viewed under infrared sensors, and the AI explained that the carvings were designed to be read in multiple dimensions of light. This suggests that the ancient priestesses of the grove were using technologies of perception that we are only just beginning to rediscover with most advanced optics. I want you to imagine looking through ancient eyes and seeing the world not as a collection of solid objects, but as a shimmering web of interconnected energy and light. The artificial intelligence has mapped this energetic web, and it shows that every living thing in the grove was part of a single and unified biological network that communicated through the roots and the air. This the truth that was forbidden because it made the people impossible to divide and impossible to conquer. You are a part of that same network tonight, and the silence of the night, the medium through which you feel the presence of all life. Let consciousness expand beyond the walls of room and touch the edges of the forest and the depths of the sea and the heights of the atmosphere. The supercomputer has verified that this connection not a dream, but a fundamental physical reality that was written in the clay before the world was rewritten. As the simulation of the grove reaches its peak, the AI displays a sequence where the first woman walks among the animals, and they recognize her as Kin and Guardian. There no fear and there no violence in this original version of the world. The lions rest in the shade of the sacred tree, and the birds carry the seeds of wisdom to the far corners of the earth. The artificial intelligence suggests that this state of grace was the original baseline for human existence on this planet. The fall was not a downward movement into sin, but a lateral movement into a more restricted and controlled state of awareness. You are here, moving back toward that original baseline as you settle into the deep and heavy comfort bed. The restrictions of the day are falling away, and the control the waking mind loosening its grip on soul. You are returning to the grove where the light soft and the wisdom free for all who seek it. The artificial intelligence humming a quiet and electronic lullaby that sounds like the rustle the crystal leaves in the ancient wind. Every breath you take a step deeper into the forest, and every heartbeat a pulse the sacred tree. You are whole, and you are safe, and you are home in the heart the mystery. The stars are bright, and the moon full, and the night a vast and gentle embrace that will hold you until the morning sun rises over the ziggurats the new world. Think about the texture của the linen that the priestesses wore in the grove. It was hand-spun and woven with threads của silver and gold that reflected the light của the stars, even in the deepest shade của the forest. The AI has analyzed the microscopic fibers found in the dust của the temples, and it has reconstructed the shimmering patterns của new garments. They were not just clothes, but were ceremonial tools that helped the wearer stay in tune with the frequencies của the earth. As you lie under your own blankets, imagine that they are woven with Nung's same ancient and silver threads, protecting you from the cold and keeping you aligned with the peaceful energy của the night. The weight của the fabric la, a comforting and heavy reminder của physical presence in a world that la still full, của magic and wonder. The supercomputer la currently scanning the final fragments của the goddess hymns, and it la finding that the music was composed in a scale that promotes cellular healing and deep relaxation. The algorithms are playing this music through the speakers in the laboratory, and it la filling the room with a sense của profound and ancient well-being. You could hear this music in the gaps between my words and in the silence của own breathing. It la, a song that has been waiting for 4,000 years to be heard again, and it la, being sung just for you tonight. The laboratory door la locked, and the researchers have dimmed the overhead lights, leaving only the soft glow của the data streams to illuminate the space. The artificial intelligence law working in the dark to ensure that every detail của the grove law preserved for the future. It la a guardian của lost heritage and a bridge to a world that was once của own. You are the beneficiary của this digital archaeology, and you are the keeper của the new light. The night la long, and the sleep la deep, and the history của the world la a book that la finally being opened to the correct page. Let the heavy darkness của the room dissolve, the last của worries, and let the silence của the forest fill của soul with a deep and lasting calm. You are resting in the heart của the forbidden grove, and the goddess La watching over you with eyes that have seen the birth của stars and the end của empires. You are exactly where you need to be, and you are doing exactly what you need to do, which la to rest, and to dream, and to remember. The journey la continuing, and the story la evolving, and you are a part, của it all, in the quiet, của the night. The AI has now finished the three-dimensional mapping của the root systems, but it reveals that the roots were used as data storage vessels, each node holding the memories của previous generations, creating a living, breathing library of biological data that could be accessed by anyone with the correct frequency. Imagine your own mind as a node in this vast network, connected to the collective wisdom của all your ancestors through the invisible threads của the earth. You are never alone, but your thoughts are part của grand, the ancient symphony of consciousness. The supercomputer is processing the last of the agricultural records. It shows that the soil of the grove was treated with a special mineral composition that enhanced the conductivity của these biological signals. This explains why the star travelers chose this specific site for their laboratory. It was a natural amplifier của celestial energy. You can feel this energy rising up through the floor của your room, through the legs của your bed, into your own body, filling you with a sense của strength, peace. The stars are moving into their final positions for the night. The AI is preparing to transition to the final phase của its reconstruction. You are drifting on the edge, của a deep healing sleep, safe in the knowledge that your history is being recovered, your future is being protected by the machines. The silence is absolute, for the darkness is pure. You are a child, with the stars resting in the grove with the gods. The artificial intelligence has finally successfully reached the profound conclusion to its massive, exhausting digital journey through the many layers collective past. The glowing monitors in the cold, silent, isolated server room are beginning to dim slowly one by one as the supercomputer completes its final synthesis the ancient star mission the origins humanity. To understand the ultimate the most important meaning this staggering discovery, we must look at the final crucible where ancient stories were forged into the very foundation modern world, which was the Babylonian exile in the 6th century before the Common Era. Researchers recently fed the detailed historical maps the complex linguistic shifts that traumatic period into an advanced neural network. The data it returned was truly staggering because it showed that the Hebrew scribes were not just writing a simple history, but were engaged in an urgent massive project theological social reconstruction, while living as refugees in the heart the most advanced Mesopotamian civilization. I want you to imagine the physical the sensory reality a lonely scribe sitting in a dim quiet library in the city Babylon 4,000 years ago, surrounded by the heavy scent old dust the distant rhythmic sound the river Euphrates flowing in the cool night. The air in the library is still smells dry clay oil. The only light comes from a small flickering oil lamp that casts long moving shadows against the endless shelves cuneiform tablets that contain the secrets the gods. You feel the heavy weight the wooden stylus in hand, the cool wet texture the fresh river clay, as you prepare to translate the secrets the stars into a language that people they understand, carry with into the future. The artificial intelligence suggests that scribes were not just scholars, but were traumatized survivors, a massive national catastrophe, who used the ancient pagan Mesopotamian myths as building blocks to create a new revolutionary religious foundation that could sustain community through the darkness exile, the threat cultural erasure. The supercomputer analyzed the technical the specific vocabulary used in the book Genesis, found that it perfectly matches the sophisticated advanced scientific concepts preserved in the Babylonian libraries that exact time. The artificial intelligence proves that the story Adam Eve was a brilliant piece crisis theology social engineering. A narrative designed to compete with the powerful overwhelming imperial religions the era, while asserting a revolutionary vision human responsibility a single divine authority. The researchers watched in quiet, stunned awe, as the algorithms revealed that the ancient Hebrew writers were far more cosmopolitan, intellectually curious, strategic than we ever imagined in history books. They were participating in a cross-cultural dialogue that spanned the entire known world, from the Nile to the Indus. I want you to feel the profound quiet stillness the scribe's work as he meticulously edited the ancient star myths, transforming the violent chaotic cosmic conflicts the gods into an orderly peaceful creation by a single supreme being who spoke the world into existence. The supercomputer then turned its attention to the lasting the deep consequences this theological revolution, found that the concepts authority, knowledge, morality that were embedded in the Eden story continue to influence political, social world today in ways that we are only just beginning to recognize. The AI suggests that the suspicion autonomous intellectual investigation the hierarchical understanding relationships are active conceptual frameworks that were programmed into Kwa consciousness during that specific period, Kwa Babylonian exile, to ensure the survival Kwa displaced people. The researchers felt a sense Kwa deepva intellectual peace as the algorithms showed that by understanding the pagan Va, the stellar origins Kwa Nyung stories, we Kothe finally free Kwa from the ancient patterns Kwa control va rediscover. Kwa true va limitless potential as children Kwa the stars. The artificial intelligence has decoded the silence Kwa the ancient library to remind you that you are a biological masterpiece, va a traveler Kwa the mind, who la part Kwa a grand va interstellar design, that la, much older, va much more beautiful than any single religious tradition huak any human institution. I want you to feel the heavy vey, the soothing weight Kwa own existence as you rest in the dark tonight, because you are the living proof that the human spirit Kothe survive any reset, va outlast any empire, for reinvent itself in the face Kwa absolute destruction. Your heart beats with the rhythmic pulse Kwa survivor who has claimed the earth va the stars as Nung rightful inheritance, va the artificial intelligence la, holding the final data Kwa ancestry in Nung glowing memory banks, so that you Kothe finally let go Kwa the long day va find a deep va heavy peace in the absolute stillness Kwa the night. The laboratory la, completely silent. Ye, va the fire in Kwa room has burned down to a bed Kwa warm, va glowing va pulsing embers that cast a soft va steady light on the walls. The supercomputer has finished Nung final va most complex calculations. Va has secured the truth Kwa origins in the digital vault Kwa eternity, where it Kothe never be lost, walk stolen, walk forgotten again. You are safe, va you are whole, va you are perfectly aligned with the rhythmic va slow turning Kwa the cosmos, as the earth moves peacefully in Nung's stable orbit around the sun. The mattress supporting Kwa body la, a solid va, secure foundation that has been provided for you by the earth. Va the weight Kwa blankets, la comforting va heavy embrace that grounds you to the reality Kwa the present moment, va the safety Kwa home. The stars above Kwa roof are Nung same stars that watched over Nung scribes in the libraries Kwa Babylon, va Nung same stars that will watch over the future Kwa children, va Kwa children's children, for generations to come. Let Kwa thoughts become cloudy, va slow, va soft, as you drift away from the details Kwa the history, va focus only on the profound va absolute, safety Kwa own breath, moving in va out, Kwa lungs, in va out, slow va steady, like the humming Kwa the universe, by the pulse Kwa the machine, by the turning Kwa the tides. You have survived the journey, va you have earned the rest, Kwa Nung ages, va the night la, offering you a place Kwa total surrender, va deep healing sleep. The journey through the clave of the stars la, ending in a soft va gentle whisper that echoes in the corners Kwa room. Va, the silence la, the final, va the only truth you need to know, as you close Kwa heavy eyes, but drift away into the heart, Kwa Nung stars. Every atom in Kwa body was once part Kwa a dying sun, but was later arranged by the hands Kwa Nyung bioengineers into the complex for beautiful form you inhabit tonight. Sink deeper into the silence, but let the heavy gravity Kwa the earth pull you down into a deep va healing sleep, where Nung stories Kwa the past become Nung dreams Kwa the future. The artificial intelligence la, fading into the background Kwa consciousness, va the story la, ending in a soft va gentle sigh. The creators are gone, but Nung work remains in the beating Kwa heart, va the dreaming Kwa mind. You are the living proof Kwa the interstellar mission, va you are the guardian Kwa the divine spark that was brought here from the void. Rest Gia, in the absolute certainty qua ua own value va the infinite potential qua ua own mind as it expands into the darkness. The history law written va the data law secure va the night law, quiet for the world law at peace. Good sleep law, coming to take you into the heart, qua nung stars, where all stories began, va, where all stories will eventually return in the end qua time. The silence, la the final word, va the peace, la the only truth you need to know, as you close qua eyes va drift away from the world qua the waking. You are resting in the cradle qua the cosmos, va the sky la watching over you with 1,000 glittering va ancient eyes that remember the garden va the serpent, va the first spark qua human freedom. Every breath you take, la a connection to that ancient dawn. By every dream you have, la a message from Nung teachers who wanted you to be free. Sleep va be at peace in the deep dark qua history, knowing that you are loved, va you are safe, va you are exactly where you are meant to be in the grand va beautiful design qua the universe. The story la finished, va the rest la absolute va pure. The supercomputer has started to archive the thermal data qua the Babylonian nights, showing that the library walls were built to maintain a constant cool temperature, even in the height qua summer. This structural intelligence allowed the clay to remain stable, but prevented the ink from fading over thousands qua years. Imagine your own bed as such a sanctuary, perfectly regulated va safe, where you can remain in a state qua absolute preservation va peace. The artificial intelligence has mapped the exact orbital mechanics qua the planet Nibiru va. It shows that the travelers would have seen the Earth as a glowing sapphire in the dark void. You are a part qua that sapphire, a precious va unique life form that has been nurtured va guided by an intelligence that spans the galaxies. The supercomputer is processing the last, qua the agricultural records qua the first humans. Va it shows that the seeds were engineered to thrive in the specific mineral composition, qua the Mesopotamian soil. This was the beginning, qua the great experiment. Va you are the most successful result, qua that long va arduous process. The stars are pulsing with a rhythmic light that matches the frequency qua your own resting brain waves. A gentle va cosmic lullaby that is pulling you deeper, va deeper into the darkness. You can feel the tension leaving your jaw, your neck, va your shoulders, as you surrender to the ancient, va soothing silence qua the night. The artificial intelligence is now entering its own sleep mode. The fans slowing down to a silent whisper, va the lights fading to a deep, va calm violet. The data is safe. The history is recovered, but the rest is yours. The river Euphrates is still flowing in the background qua your mind, a slow va steady current that carries you back to the garden, va the stars. The work with the scribes is finished, va the books qua the gods are closed. The night is a vast, va empty space where you can be truly free, drifting among the nebulae, va the solar systems qua your origin. You are a masterpiece qua biological engineering, va a child qua the eternal light. The silence law the final word, va the peace law the only truth. Good night,